Okay, now let's look at nouns now. Okay, so nouns, we have nominative case and we have objective case. So nominative case, nouns can be used as subject, an attribute complement, and a positive modifier of a noun in the nominative case, a nominative form of address, and as an exclamatory nominative. So in the objective case, nouns can be used as a direct object, as an object of a preposition, as an objective complement, as an appositive modifier of a noun in an objective case. Let's look at examples. Okay, as subject. So, again, as you know, there are two ways to construct a sentence, right? So, first, subject predicate, which is more common in English. And in Filipino, what's more common is predicate subject. So let's look at the examples of nouns as subjects. So we can say, ang guro ay nagbabasa. Or the more common, nagbabasa ang guro. With the first one, let's look. Ang guro ay nagbabasa. We say, ang teacher ay reading. With the second one, nagbabasa ang guro. What is the literal translation? Reading ang teacher. Now, let's look at the word I. What is I? I is just a particle. It is used to mean is and are, but do not get confused. I is not the verb to be, is, and are. Why? There's no such thing as the verb to be in Tagalog or Filipino. However, what you need to remember is that I can be used like the verb to be, but it's not the verb to be. Okay? So, and then look at the word ang. What is ang? Ang is a marker, and I can talk later about markers, but at this point, look at ang. So, ang is your marker. What does it mark if it's a marker? It marks the focus of the sentence. And in this particular sentence, nagbabasa ang guro, the focus is on the actor or the doer of the action. In this case, guro or teacher. Let's move on. Let's look at nouns as an attribute complement. So, for example, you say, si Maria ay abogada na. So, what you're trying to say is, Maria is now a lawyer. Or literally, what you're saying is, si Maria, then I, lawyer now. Okay? Lawyer already. Okay. Or the more common, abogada na si Maria. Meaning what? Lawyer already, si Maria. Now, look at the word na. Okay? What is na? Right? Na has several meanings. And in this particular sentence, the meaning of na is already. Now, you may have heard Filipinos speaking and they like to speak already. So for example, if you meet a Filipino will say to you, have you eaten already? Instead of saying, have you eaten? Why? Because that already there is na. People use na a lot, and meaning already. When you translate the sentence into English, you don't really need the na there because you don't need to say already. Does that make sense? Okay, let's move on. So let's look at nouns as an appositive modifier of a noun in the nominative case. So, what does that mean, a positive modifier of a noun in the nominative case? Very simple. Okay? Look at the sentence, for example. Si Juan, ang karpintero, ang nagtayo ng bahay. So literally, what is it? So Juan, the carpenter, built his house. So the modifier there is the carpenter. Who is Juan? It's Juan the carpenter, not Juan the plumber, not Juan the writer, but it's Juan the carpenter who built the house. Okay, or the more common, ang karpinterong si Juan ang nagtayo ng bahay. So, the carpenter who is Juan is the person who built the house. Let's look at another example. So here, we have the noun as a nominative form of address. So for example, or address. So for example, we say, Doktor, ano ho ang hinahanap nyo? So doctor, what are you looking for? So literally, so the word doctor there is your nominative form of address. Okay, let's look at another example. So the noun as an exclamatory nominative. So for example, sunog, sunog. What is sunog, sunog? Fire, fire. So fire here or sunog is your exclamatory nominative. So tawagin nyo ang bombero is call the firemen or firefighters. Okay? So, and then you can also use a noun as a direct object. So, naglinis ako ng kwarto. Meaning what? What did you clean? Naglinis ako, not, I cleaned what? Naglinis ako, not the bathroom, not the garden, but naglinis ako ng kwarto. So, literally, that's cleaned I, marker ng, and then noun, which is room. Nouns can also be used as the object of a preposition. So, for example, you can say, malinaw ang mga argumento ng kongresista. So, look at that. So, look at the ng here. Ng here is your preposition. So, when you say ng kongresista, you're saying of the congressman or the congresswoman or the representative. So, what you're saying is, malinaw ang mga argumento ng kongresista, clear the arguments of the congressman or the congresswoman. So you use nouns as the object of a preposition. So let's move on. You can also use nouns as an objective complement. So what is an example? So for example, ang Korte Suprema ang nagpalaya sa kanya. So look at the phrase, ang nagpalaya sa kanya. So what are we saying? It was the Supreme Court. So, not the lower courts that set him or her free. Okay? So, examples. As an appositive modifier of the noun in the objective case, si Maria ang tumulong kay Kulas na kapitbahay ko. So, what are we saying here? So, it was Maria's, or Maria was the one who helped who? My neighbor, Kulas. So, literally, marker, marker C, Maria, then marker again, help, then you have the preposition, then Kulas, linker, neighbor, Kulas, kay Kulas na kapitbahay ko, Kulas, who, neighbor, mine. That's what it is.